We all have those days where we just want to break shit. Maybe that's going to a rage room, or maybe that's coming home and smashing your kid's Xbox 360.
Oh no!
If you grew up in the 80s, then perhaps you went to your local arcade and caused mass destruction in Rampage, an arcade classic released in 1986, where you play as a giant monster destroying buildings and eating people. If you've ever fantasized about being King Kong or Godzilla, this is definitely the game for you. It was developed and published by Bally Midway, also known as Midway Games. Okay, hold it right there. When it comes to the history of gaming, this company is legendary. We're talking about the company responsible for Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam, Spy Hunter, and had the rights to many classics developed by Atari. They were an essential part of my childhood. I knew to look for the Midway logo before I knew my ABCs. If I saw it on the cover, I knew I was in for a good time. I had a lot of PS2 games published under the company: Midway Arcade Treasures, NBA Ballers Phenom, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy video game, Edda and Eddie The Misadventures, Ant Bully, and of course Rampage Total Destruction. Total Destruction is a sequel released 20 years after the arcade. It was developed by Pipeworks Software and published by Midway. It was available for PS2, GameCube, and Wii. The game takes the original arcade formula and recreates it in a 3D engine, allowing you to smash famous cities across the United States, along with going outside the country to smash London and Hong Kong. One of the main selling features to this game was that the range of monsters you could play as was expanded. It went from just the original 3 monsters to 30 in the PS2, GameCube versions, 40 if we're talking about the Wii. How did we get to this amount of monsters, you may ask? Soda and Major League Gaming.
Get lost! Get lost! I'm pushing useless. Come on! Time's running out!
The game opens with some found footage of a random Call of Duty gamer testing 2 sodas, Sundrop and Mountain Dew. As you expect, Sundrop has no effect on the gamer, for it's not a part of the XP bundle. He then tries Mountain Dew, loves it, and turns into an animal. You know, the typical experience when drinking Mountain Dew. After the amazing rise in Modern Warfare sales, PepsiCo has a meeting about how they should start adding crack to the Mountain Dew formula to provide an extra boost to the gaming experience, if you catch my drift. They admit not everyone can handle the new effects of Mountain Dew game fuel, therefore it has created 30 to 40 city-destroying monsters. Hey, sometimes you either do the do or you become the do. Jokes aside, the reoccurring antagonist of the series, Scum Labs, created a soda that spawned a bunch of monsters. That's pretty much the gist of it. This isn't a very story-driven game, which I think is a good thing. When you try to pair Rampage with a story, then you get whatever the 2018 movie was. So keeping it straightforward with an opening and a closing was a smart choice. It allows us just to focus strictly on the gameplay, which in itself is a lot of fun. Like the original, you destroy buildings, grab items from windows, and you get to eat people. A fun addition to the game, however, is that every stage has a challenge that you can complete for the reward of an upgrade to your monster, or bonus points to your score. The upgrades in this game are unlockable moves that can help your monster smash things easier. This includes the roar attack that allows you to knock back multiple enemies, the multi-spin attack that allows you to hit enemies in the air like helicopters, the jump attack that makes it easier to do damage on top of a building, and the charge punch that causes a lot of damage to buildings directly. Every city has hidden capsules that you can find to unlock new monsters. It can be tricky trying to find these at times where it isn't clear where they're going to be, and you can easily lose them in the wreckage. However, it does add replayability to the stages. It's enjoyable seeing all the different monster designs. You get a lot of gnarly, creative choices. The game can also be played solo or with another person, just like the previous entries. Speaking of previous entries, both the original arcade game and World Tour are playable in the bonus content menu. A really neat feature. If you see my Pitfall video, you know I love this kind of content. It's always great to have a later entry show respect to the original. If you were to ask me, I would say this game is a pretty loyal and solid sequel to the arcade. However, if you do an internet search on Total Destruction, critics would tell you otherwise. A 5 out of 10? Did we play the same game? Do you know what a 5 looks like? Maybe for a second I'll take off the nostalgia goggles and switch teams. What does Total Destruction do wrong? A common complaint I see a lot of reviews stating is that it has repetitive gameplay and lack of innovation. While playing it today as an adult, I will say it is very repetitive. The gameplay stays the same throughout every stage. You're always destroying cities, but what more did you expect from a game called Rampage? You can make the same complaint for an FPS where every level requires you to shoot things. Just because a game is linear and repetitive doesn't mean it still isn't enjoyable. If I had to state an actual criticism though I have with Rampage Total Destruction, it's the difficulty of the later stages. It's ridiculously unfair and honestly not very enjoyable. It's not the fun kind of difficulty like in Dark Souls or an early RPG where you start off weak and the game kicks your ass, but it gets a little easier as you level up. It's the type of difficulty that is either the result of bad design choice or just to serve as padding to keep you playing the game longer. Like a hot pepper, the game goes from 0 to 100 real quick. I started out the game fairly strong, almost never losing any lives, and then right when I got to Chicago, I started to lose lives rapidly. And then don't even get me started on Hong Kong. I lost all my lives within one round. It doesn't matter how upgraded your monster is, you'll have enemies attacking you non-stop from every direction, many even off screen. While you may be larger than the threat, you're too bulky and slow to be able to handle every enemy. It also doesn't help that you're under a time limit to destroy the section, so you'll be debating with yourself constantly as to whether you should stop and deal with the threat, or just keep on moving with bringing down buildings and risk losing lives. The arcade had the same challenge to a degree, but the difference is that your vision of the city section wasn't limited. One thing that makes the difficulty a little more tolerable though, is that when you hit the game over screen, you don't have to restart the entire city, just the stage, and you're able to switch monsters if you like. Even with the unfair difficulty towards the end, I still think Total Destruction is a cool game in the series. Around this time, Midway had taken several arcade classics and given them 6th gen recreations. Like Rampage Total Destruction, these entries may be rough around the edges, but they're really a neat inclusion that I'm glad we got to see. Unfortunately, in 2009, Midway Games filed for bankruptcy, and Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment acquired most of the assets. So with that, I don't think we'll ever see another period like this. A period of experimentation taking classic games and making new recreations that keep the concept intact. We have a lot of remakes, but not a lot of new sequels that feel like a balance of the past while trying something new. Rampage Total Destruction stays loyal to its original game, while adding some interesting mechanics. It may not be everyone's cup of tea and a well-known classic, however it made a mark on my childhood, and I can't forget it for that reason.